Right. Okay. Ready? It's 6:30. So I'd just like to say welcome to this Sandwich Town Council's very first Financial and General Purposes Committee on the Monday the 24th of October at 6:30 p.m. I just had two items to mention. The first one is, can everybody speak up and speak clearly, please, for two reasons. One is for the note taker who's taking the minutes, and the second one is so that the streaming, the filming of the meeting, they can also hear. For people that would like to be here and can't be here, they can hear at home. Thank you on that one. And the second one is we've got quite a lot of items, because this is the first meeting. There's quite a lot of agenda items that have all come up. In fact, some have been kept off of the agenda so that we didn't have too much to speak tonight. So could we just be concise, not go off topic, and just speak about what we actually need to discuss? Thank you very much. Okay, so next item number 2 is apologies.
Apologies have been received from Councillor Graham, who is on holiday.
Oh, brilliant, thank you very much for that. That's good. And item number 3.
Sorry, can I raise a point of order, Mr. Chair? Is it appropriate now or later?
Is it in
it's
reference
a point of
to
order? It's a point of order on the agenda.
Oh, right. Is it, if it's one of the items when it comes up, did you want to raise it when the item
No,
comes
it's not on one of the items. It should have been one of the items on the agenda.
Oh, right, okay then.
Our standing orders require the Council at its annual meeting in May to review a whole host of documents, including standing orders, terms of reference and so on. For some reason this was not done in May. At the July Council meeting, a review of certain of these items was put on the agenda. They were not reviewed at the July meeting, but the Council resolved that these matters be referred to the first meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, which is this meeting. Now, apart from the standing orders which are on the agenda, none of the other items which should have been reviewed in May are on the agenda to be reviewed. This is in direct contravention of the resolution the Council passed in July. So why are these items not on the agenda?
Okay, thank you very much for that point of order. I don't actually have an answer for you, I'm afraid, Councillor Gray. As I say, although I was involved in drawing up items for the agenda, it was left to the Chief Executive to finalise the agenda. So I will raise that item with the Chief Executive and ask her when she's back off of leave.
After when they're going to be reviewed by this, presumably it will now have to be the next committee next meeting of this committee. And in the meantime, the Council remains in breach of its own standing orders.
Yeah,
I seem to recall, Councillor Carter, that at one meeting we decided when we adopted our new standing orders, etc., that we would have a review in the early part of next year to see how it was going. So my suspicion is that it was thought that overrided what we agreed to do in the other meeting. And that's a rational explanation I can find. Because we did agree to review how things were working.
Yeah.
So maybe that is what has happened. And therefore it can be simply sorted out, and if we need to bring them back, we bring them back. If we don't, we wait for the time frame that we all agreed at another council meeting.
Can I say something?
Thank you for that. Is it appertaining to?
Yes, it is. With respect, I don't think Councillor Fox is correct. We're not talking about reviewing the standing orders. We're talking about the standing order 5J, which says that every May we should review all the contracts and many other policy documents of the Council. Now that was not done in May, but in July, at the July the 25th meeting, the Council resolved that those matters should be brought to the first meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. You know, I can find the resolution, and what is very strange is that we made a resolution, we voted for it, it was minuted, and yet there is no sign of that item on this agenda. And I have to say that I can't really see the point of passing resolutions if they are not then implemented.
If I may respond, I apologise for misunderstanding what Nicholas Gray said. I did misunderstand what you said.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the standing orders, not the
Thank you.
specific
Your
thing.
apologies.
No, because that's what I generally thought you meant. In which case I have to agree at the next meeting we should bring all these things back for review. I believe the Chief Executive did send something around about it, but it should come to this committee.
Most definitely. Okay, so if we can keep that on hold, I will be in touch with the Chief Executive and be asking her why they weren't on this committee agenda, and that they should be at the least on the next committee agenda. So thank you for raising that item. Item number 3, declaration of disclosable pecuniary interests and other significant interests. Does anybody have any at all, please?
Yeah, the fishing day.
I do as a trustee of the Fishing Charity, and Councillor Franklin as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, Councillor Carter, I just find it very hard to understand how you can chair a meeting when half the people are sitting in a line and there's a spare seat here and there where you can see them, because Councillor Gray is having to do this and this, as would Councillor Morehouse, and there's spare seats.
I'm sorry, I can't force them to.
It's just a suggestion.
That's it, yeah. I
I mean, it makes it easier for you.
Oh, thank you, yeah. Obviously I can't force them to
No, but it's
sit.
sense.
I can see you very well, Councillor.
I need to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, your neck, Nicholas.
Item number 4, public right to speak. Do we have any members of the public? Ian Black, super. Okay, Mr. Ian Black, would you like to address the committee, please? You can do that from where you're standing, and you'd have 3 minutes.
Oh, I thought I had 15 minutes as there's only one speaker. Okay. Taxpayers, councillors and officer, for democracy to flourish and for local councils to be valued and respected, I believe it is vital that taxpayers can easily make representation to councillors and councillors. It is enshrined in the right to speak. That is not a privilege, it's a right. The policy in July was minuted as going to this committee, and the standing orders for discussion today are a starting point. Many issues require access to agendas and minutes, but where can we access the agendas? Draft Standing Order 15B1 does not mandate STC to put items on the web. I suggest this needs to change. Existing Standing Orders 3D to G are a problem, only allowing 3 minutes per speaker and 15 minutes in total. And also Standing Order 3T6, which does not require the minuting of the speaker's points. None of these issues have been debated, despite them being raised. They've just been inserted in the draft Standing Order. Do you and the taxpayers want a simple or a rule-bound system as proposed in July last year, or this year? I suggest a more open and welcoming approach with very few restrictions. And there should be a right to speak at every meeting. This approach applies to single item agendas and extraordinary meetings as well. Please make this very clear. There is no legislation preventing public participation at such meetings. Do you really need notice of items? Well, the councillors do not respond at the time. If you do need notice, I suggest you close down time is 09:30 on the date of the meeting. The frequent late posting of agendas means busy people may not have time to prepare before the weekend. NALC recommends always allowing the chair's discretion for a late item. And you need to allow for items not yet on the agenda to be raised. For example, parking issues, disability issues, public transport, Not all of those will be in the full control of the council. For how long per person? I suggest you need up to about 5 minutes. How will you warn the speaker when they approach the end of the allocated time? The timer system is incredibly rude. Why not use the 3-colour light system used commonly elsewhere? When should people speak? At the start of the meeting, at the start of a particular agenda item. Speakers, I believe, should disclose relevant interests, proximity to development, an interest group, etc. What will you do about repetitive issues? I suggest that any person be permitted to speak at every meeting if the item is relevant to the agenda. They may therefore cover a variety of topics over a year. But if it is not relevant to the agenda and identical points have been raised repeatedly, you might possibly think of some restriction after 3 or 4 times being raised. Finally, I suggest fuller minutes of speakers' key points and the council's replies. Now, as we've got so many specific numbers I've referred to, I prepared something earlier in Best Clue to start. Will you take one past the rest of them, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Black. That's all kind of you. Do we have any other ones to speak? No, just that one. Okay.
They're two-sided. It's just one page and 2 sides.
Item number 5, we have terms of reference. To receive and note the terms of reference resolved by council, minute number 210722, and that is attachment 1. Is there any discussion about this item, or would somebody like to propose the acceptance of this?
Yeah, I propose acceptance of
No, second.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And can we vote on that, please? All in favour? Item number 6, committee membership. To discuss and consider and recommend to council a replacement member of the committee. And this is attachment number 2. And this comes about due to the unfortunate resignation of Councillor Mark Lintop. We have a vacancy on this committee. I just wanted to say that I've already been approached with a replacement member for this committee, which is the new councillor, Councillor Martin Pennington. And for those that don't know, he actually was chair of the Westgate-on-Sea Council, so his ability at finances, policy and procedures is quite exceptional. So the person I've had put forward is Martin Pennington, but it's up for discussion if anybody else wants to put anybody else forward. I'd second that. Okay then. Anybody else want any discussion of this? Okay. And so all those in favour, please vote. Okay, so Martin Pennington will be attending future committees now. Thank you. Item number 7, standing orders. To receive a report from the Chief Executive to consider which standing orders to use as a template, and this is attachment number 3. I think basically it's the option there between to consider the recommendation from the Chief Executive is to consider and recommend which standing order template should be adopted by Council, which is open to option. Councillor Gray.
May I just put everybody right before we decide on this? The CALC standing order and the NALC standing orders are actually one and the same document. It is just that the KALC standing order is an older version of the NALC one. So therefore there really is no choice in this at all. We either adopt the NALC one and we adopt it so that it complies with our terms of reference, or we do something completely different, so we're not really being asked a proper question here. I would propose that we should adopt the NALC ones, but that they do need to work on them to make sure that they do comply with our standing orders and terms of reference. And I'm really not sure at the moment whether they do. Some alterations have been made by the Chief Executive. The problem is that our Chief Executive never marks up documents to show changes, so it becomes almost impossible to know what we're dealing with. And I would propose that we should defer consideration of this until the next meeting, but in the meantime, either a group of councillors should sit down with the Chief Executive and go through them with her to make sure that we do have a complete set. And I would certainly be happy to do that with her, if anyone else would like to do the same.
Do you have anybody else that wanted to volunteer to go through these with the Chief Executive?
I don't mind.
I think, didn't Councillor Wiles have some comments? I mean, he's not here.
I think it would be sensible if he did as well, because he is responsible for the new terms of reference and schedule of delegations. And I think it would be very good if he would do it as well with us.
We can approach him to see if that's what's wanted. So did you have somebody to second your proposal?
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment? I mean, I think the presentation by Mr. Black about public right to speak, I think that's something that needs to be looked at, particularly within the new standing orders.
Yes, it does indeed.
Yes. I would hope that this group would
would
look at his comments and any other comments.
Yeah, I would propose some alterations to the standing orders, specifically about public participation at meetings. And I think this is something which I'd like to work through with the Chief Executive, so we can present something to the next meeting which we know complies with our terms of reference and so on. But also includes that.
There you go, it does need to comply. Okay then, and so we just need to vote on that. We've had a proposal and a seconder, so put all those in favour of that option, please vote.
So it will come back to the next.
It'll come back to the next meeting.
Yes, of course. This committee doesn't make decisions, it makes recommendations.
Okay, item number 8 is changing places toilet. To receive and consider a report from the Chief Executive offering regarding the potential of a changing places toilet, and this is attachment number 4. And for those of you that remember, this came up at a previous meeting, and unfortunately the Chief Executive said we were too late. So Dover District Council have got the funding, so there's £50,000 to put this in place. Dover District Council is in receipt of that money. Options were considered within the Guildhall itself, but those options weren't workable, particularly because it was upstairs in the Guildhall, which wouldn't have complied with DDA requirements and what have you, and alterations to the Guildhall. So now the Chief Executive has spoken to me and said that the option that would be available would be to accommodate this on the quay as part of the toilet block on the quay. So this is an option that we could go forward with. It would obviously be a small project that the chief executive would have to manage for us. So it's open for discussion. So
Yes.
Councillor Anderson.
Yes. I'd like to talk in my capacity as chair of the Disability Action Strategy Working Group. And I think, although we haven't discussed this specific proposal because it came after our meeting last week, I don't think I am doing anything wrong by saying that I think the group would very strongly support this kind of toilet being introduced in Sandwich. But I do have two comments. We did actually talk about the location of toilets and access to toilets at our last meeting last week. And two issues came up. One is that the entry system for the toilets down on the quay is spasmodic. It sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. Not only that, in order to gain access to the toilets, whether they're for disabled people or the ordinary toilets, you have to present your credit or debit card. And as somebody on the access group pointed out, there are some credit and debit cards which have a minimum payment of £5. So that in itself is a problem. And one of the members of the committee is, I'm sure you all know, Carol George, who basically does the work for Sandwich in Bloom and is very often on the quay, and she says that she frequently encounters people who aren't able to get access to the toilets while she's watering the plants. So that's problem number one. If we have this extremely expensive capital investment, it really has to work. We can't spend a lot of money and then find that people can't actually use it.
Yeah.
And that, but I have to say that I did myself, after that meeting, go down to the quay, presented my credit card, got into the loos perfectly happily, and they were pristine and it was fine. But as I say, Carol has observed spasmodically people unable to get in. The second point that I want to make is that if we have disabled toilets on the quay, then it is all the more important that we have an accessible route from the quay to the rest of the town and vice versa. Because the quay, given where it is and given the hugely difficult junction that people have to cross if they're coming from the town to the quay and vice versa, there really is a problem there. I can see why the suggestion is that this wonderful new loo gets located on the quay, but it does entail a very good accessible pathway from the quay into town. And one of the ways in which that can be done or assisted is a ramp from the quay path through the Ainsley Court.
Can I just, sorry, Councillor Anderson, sorry, can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
The actual item that we're discussing is whether we actually want the disabled toilets
Yes,
on the
but I'm
quay.
saying that,
But the
that
access-
those two other problems
Yeah.
need to be resolved
They-
before we can commit.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, then, thank you very much for that. So, Councillor Fox. sorry.
I think it would be excellent to have a disabled toilet in town. I can quite understand the difficulties. I too have been watering with Carol George on the quay, and I've seen people wedge open the door. But interestingly, someone came and, because what happens is if they wedge it open for someone, it closes after 4 minutes and they get trapped inside. So it's quite dangerous, really, for people to try and save money by keeping it open for other people. And that's when the vandalism occurs, because people get trapped inside the loo. But I have to observe, as Carol, as Councillor Anderson has said, that Someone else came up and used the other one, presented his card and got in with no problem at all. So I suggest there's an element of card usage as well, and how you do it. You need patience, and sometimes if you're desperate, you haven't got that much patience. But my other point is, I mean, I don't think we should forgo this money. It won't be there forever. A lot of these grant offers are time ended. So maybe we have to think, let's go with it and see, then work on the other issues, which I do agree you resolving. But the other point is, how does it work in with what Dover District Council have planned for the quay in the future with their vision for sandwich plan? Because there's very little point in investing this money if the loo's going to be moved and things are going to be different, and we don't know the answer to that question yet.
Well,
Well, we don't know the answer though. I just want there to be clarity about that, that if, when all the work to the quay is done, whatever it's going to be, which we don't know, that it fits into it.
That's it, yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to raise the issue of the access into the current toilets, and if we vote on this for these toilets, I'll raise that with the Chief Executive. To answer Councillor Fox, it was Dover District Council that actually said that these toilets should actually be put in the block down on the quay.
I'm sometimes thinking left hand and right hand.
So yeah, no, so I'm hoping that they're giving with their right hand and building with their right hand, if that's okay. So, but thank you very much for those comments. I'll do those. Oh.
Mr. Chair, if you permit me, can I just make a couple of points regarding the disabled toilets? So myself, Councillor Ungerson, Councillor Gray, Councillor Franklin, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Fenn were at the town team meeting last week, and we were talking about toilets because there's a possible cause in place regarding having extra toilets brought in regarding events. And a gentleman came up and mentioned about there's no disabled toilet in the Guildhall area. There's one down the quay, but there's not one on the outside of the Guildhall area. Now maybe that could be an idea to put one there instead of down the quay, because there's already one down there. The other second point is as Mr. Mayor said about there's keys that these disabled people get for the things. This is a radar key. I have one because my daughter's disabled and I use it a lot for her when she needs to use the toilet down there. So maybe we could, if people speak to the Guildhall, they could ask to see how they can get the key or purchase the key themselves. But that's my opinion for the committee.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we should just go ahead and, like I said, while the fund is available, get it, because they're not going to change the toilet block. They're talking about the moorings of the boats and pontoons, nothing to do with the toilet block. Otherwise,
And it can only be good if there are more boat users, more toilet facilities can only.
And there is a disabled toilet at a local supermarket as well. Isn't there? Public disabled toilet across the road.
No.
I've no problem with Dean speaking, and what he says is very useful. But I was led to believe that members of the public are not allowed to speak at these meetings, and I resent at times that I can't speak. So where do we stand? Can we speak or can't we?
When I'm chairing the meeting, if the public have got a sensible issue to raise about this matter, then I will allow them to speak from the floor.
Well, that's great if it doesn't affect the main council meetings and you end up with...
I don't chair the main council meetings, but as far as I'm concerned,
It go on too long as it is.
the
Yeah,
public,
but you know, it's a bit odd if you say we
It's
can
different
speak at this
committee.
meeting but not at that one.
the public's comments are very important to me, so I will be taking from the floor on matters on that. So,
Can I suggest, though, Mr. Chairman, then just following up, if this is to be the way it is to be done, then that needs to be clear to members of the public. I mean, I could be sitting here in complete frustration, and because the self-discipline to say nothing. You have to be clear. It's one or the other. I appreciate different meetings may have different rules, but it needs to be crystal clear in my book.
That's correct. That's a very good comment. Yeah, that's a very good comment. But as you know, the main council meetings do not allow any engagement from the public. These are new meetings. This is a new way of bringing the council forward, and we're trying to engage with the public to do that. So, as far as I'm concerned,
And
Councillor
could I just add that I hope in our new standing orders we will cover this point and make it clear as to what the position is regarding the public at council meetings, committee meetings and so on.
Exactly.
And I think it's very important that we do get it straight.
Thank you very much.
If I could just add, currently at the moment, the only people that can speak in meetings, apart from people at the meeting or at our new meetings, is a fellow councillor
Mm.
who is not on the meeting. So at the moment we cannot engage with the public because it's not in our terms of
Thank you
reference.
for that.
I'm not saying whether I agree with it or
He's a-
not, but
he's a
that is
councillor.
No,
that
thank
is
you.
currently happening. He is a councillor, so
Indeed.
he can be
Thank
invited
you
to
on that.
speak.
Thank you.
So those are what we have agreed, that's all. I'm not saying I disagree with the points raised, it's what's agreed at the
Just
moment.
wanted to finalise on this point that the amount of money there, although it sounds like quite a large amount of money, it wouldn't allow, just to reply to Councillor Marie, it wouldn't allow to build a disabled toilet anywhere else. Unfortunately, you'd need 150, 200,000 to actually build something. Dover District Council said that the money that's there now would allow the adaptation of an existing building, including tiling, flooring, redecoration and all that. So, if that's okay. Was it a very quick item?
Yes, it is. We very quickly talked at the Disability Access Working Strategy Working Group about the possibility of there being a portable disabled toilet in the cattle market car park, which would resolve that
Indeed.
issue.
That's, yeah.
But that's something that we'll
That's
have to-
something that have to come to this committee at a later stage. Thank you very much for that. Okay, and so could I have a proposal and a seconder?
Yeah, I'm all for it, yeah.
So Councillor Franklin proposing.
And this is a proposal that we accept this grant and that we build.
Yeah, we've already got the toilets.
Okay, and could I have a vote on that, please? All in favour? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you very much for that item there. Okay. And then item number 9 is live streaming of meetings. To discuss and consider live streaming company quotations. This is attachment number 5. Now the Chief Executive gave me some instructions on this. She said that with these quotations they go from an exceptionally large sum of money, nearly £50,000, down to a small sum of money of just over £2,000. But she wanted me to convey to you that there is the option to actually trial this in-house, which would have negligible costs at all. And it's something that she said we could actually do to save funds, and we could consider the trial of it in-house by the Guildhall staff and see how that goes. So that I want you to also consider that as an option on the table as well. Councillor Fox.
What my view very much is a very expensive option is something that we could never ever consider, so it's out of the window. Of the other options, I am not skilled enough, I don't have the knowledge to completely understand what they're proposing, and I would have thought we would need dry runs of all of them before we took a decision. I absolutely support trialling our own system first. If we can get that to go, it's good. If that doesn't work, I think we should invite the other 3 options in. I mean, one, we'll have to pay quite a lot of money every meeting. I think it's nigh on £200 per meeting. And how many meetings a year we're going to have, that's going to up the cost, plus an additional member of staff to manage the system. So where does that money come from? Is that time off in lieu, or is it overtime? That would have to be considered as well. So I think we should try our own, and then if it don't work, invite the other 2. I would discount the one that you have to pay every meeting because costs could go out of control, and invite them for a trial. And that's the way I would propose to go forward. I'd like to make that a motion, please.
Thank you very much for that. So Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I would like a system which we could work ourselves. I don't know whether any of these are offering that facility, but it seems to me that there are so many questions here that it would be quite a good idea to set up a small group of people to go away and have a look at all these options, and actually to write a proper tender document, which as I say, I would like to include the possibility of councillors or the chair of the committee or council or whatever meeting we're talking about being able to operate the system themselves, because to expect a member of staff just to hang about to switch a few switches, I don't think that's reasonable. So anyway, so I'm proposing a little working group.
Yes, I would agree with that as well. I don't know enough about this, really can't make a decision on this. But I think that if we set up a working group, and I think Councillor Morehouse would be a very good person to be on that, because he's very good dealing with quotations and purchasing, and I think that would be the way forward.
Sure. Well, Councillor Fox, your motion was the first on the floor, so did you want to put your motion forward, or did you want to
I would
consider?
still like us to trial our in-house motion first.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, by all means,
Yeah.
set up a working group. It's what the IT committee would have done, and was doing. But I think trialling our own, it could save an awful lot of time and effort if what we do in-house works.
Exactly.
So I think we should try that, and in the meantime, set up a working group. That's what you want to do.
Okay, then, I think. Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay then, well, unless there's any more discussion, the motion that's on the floor, would your motion include adopting a working group thereafter?
If it was proven that our system couldn't work, yes, by all means set up a working group. But I think we should test our own in-house version first. So I would propose that we have a trial fake meeting, and perhaps have audiences at home trying to watch it, and in other rooms, and see how it goes. And if we agree that that works, but great. If it doesn't, go with a working group and investigate further.
Can I just make one more comment? What has been so useful about the current system run by a volunteer Sandwich resident has been that the recordings of the meetings have then been available long after the meeting, because they get put on YouTube. So again, that seems to me to be an important criterion that we should put in a tender document, that these meetings can then be viewed forever on YouTube or wherever, on the web, on the internet. And I'm not sure whether the in-house system that currently exists, I had no idea there was one.
Haven't trialled it yet.
But would it make recordings which could then be?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I've got a motion on the floor then, from Councillor Fox to try our own system first, and then if that isn't suitable, then we would move on to a working group option thereafter.
If I can add that we should do this very quickly, so that we know if it, we can move on with it quickly, because we can't waste too much more time on this.
No.
But Christina doing all her work, it's wonderful. It's a
Exactly.
big take on her time. And,
Oh, definitely, and it's well overdue, isn't it? It's well
Yeah.
needed. Okay, so I've got a proposer and I've got a seconder, so we'll vote on that option. Those in favour of this option? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 10 is the Fishergate, to discuss and consider a report from the Chief Executive in relation to the proposed occupancy and works, and this is attachment number 6. Obviously, if anybody's got
I don't know if you need us to leave the room.
interest, yeah, I'd rather, if you don't mind, it would
Just clear it up.
give transparency, wouldn't it, if you
Yeah.
leave the
No,
room?
no, I know we're not talking about anything financial.
No.
It's just reports.
But no, but it just keeps things transparent, doesn't it, if you do. Oh, have you? Oh, indeed. Can I give that? I'll shoot to give that, if that's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I've got the financial officer has an update from DDC on the Fishergate, so I'll hand over to the responsible financial officer on this item first of all.
I just wanted to mention that before that item is discussed, Amanda Jane has just met with DDC, who have said that we can't apply for building regs or listed consent until a risk assessment, including fire risk assessment, has been done.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. That's an added item that we need to do. So basically on this item, what we're talking about is we know who's going to occupy the premises, which is the Sandwich Heritage Harbour Group, and that's already been established. What the matter is the difference between the works that's going to be undertaken there, and there are some works that the Sandwich Heritage Harbour Group are prepared to do, which are mainly internal works, but some of it is on the windows internally, and the rest of the works which have been produced as a quotation are for the works that could possibly be paid for by Sandwich Town Council. And so the works that are there come up to £7,679, which include roof repairs, relining window sashes, infilling fireplaces, amendments to the shower and basin works, plus there are some additional minor costs of £170 there. The Chief Executive said that item number 3, the secondary glazing inside, was, I don't know if you've picked this up, it's no longer necessary, so that would relieve £1,895 of the quotation of the works. So that would bring that down quite considerably to just over £5,000. Also, I was told that there is a budget currently for Fishergate of £7,681.46. So Sandwich Town Council can cover the cost of these. It's for this committee to recommend to full council what they do and don't pay for. So
I recommend to go ahead forward for the work done.
with the works, okay. Is there any other discussion?
I'd like to second that, but if Councillor Carter would like to add that we do the risk assessment, etc. as quickly as
We've got
possible.
money for it.
Is that okay?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
We've got a budget to cover
Yeah,
for that.
so we hope that we have to cover those items first and get
Yes.
on with it as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you very much for that. So was there any other discussion on this? Okay then. Okay, so we've got a proposal and a seconder for all these works to go ahead from the Sandwich Town Council budget. All those in favour? Cool. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Councillor Marie.
He got sit on by the door.
Welcome back. Okay, so we're on item number 11 now, which is the financial forecast outturn, which has been drafted by the responsible financial officer. This is attachment number 7, and this is to receive a report from the responsible financial officer regarding financial forecast outturns for 2022-23 and the cash flow spreadsheet. So on this item there's 2 recommendations. So basically it's noting the report, and then the 2 recommendations are: number 1, increasing the operational reserve to £50,000 for contingencies, and the second item is the inclusion of Monk's Wall Nature Reserve and the replacement of £20,000 that was used from that account by previous council to balance the books, as it were. So it's replacing funds. Right, okay then. So just note the report. Okay then.
Can I just make,
Indeed.
I was a bit puzzled, and I think it's just a typo, but it's column 1, the heading, is that 3009/2020?
It should be 22, yeah.
Sorry,
not
yes
23.
it is, yeah. Sorry, there may be 1 or 2 things like that. I did have at home with COVID and wrote it. So you have to forgive me. But yes, that's 2022.
So So for this evening, we're going to recommend to council that we're noting the report. So could I have a proposer and seconder for that, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, item number 12 is budget requirements. To receive and consider a report from the responsible financial officer regarding budget requirements. This is attachment number 8, and these requirements are basically where there is a shortfall or overspend in current budgets and where there is an underspend in other budgets. And so obviously the responsible financial officer has in order to balance the books, has put forward some requirements that are up for option tonight, so we can consider those and agree those if that's the committee's decision. So,
Are we just noting it at this stage, are we? Are we voting
it's,
for it?
well,
I think we're voting.
we need approval for them to go ahead, so
Then I propose approval.
Yeah, I second that.
Councillor Carter and Councillor Franklin.
Yeah.
Do you already pay the interest on those expenses?
That's good. Okay. So, did anybody else have any other discussions? No. Okay. So, Councillor Carter's proposing that we go ahead with these requirements, and Councillor Franklin seconding that. All those in favour? 6. Thank you very much. Item number 12. Item number 13 is a confidential item, so I'm going to have to ask the members of the public to please vacate the chamber. So thank you very much for coming this evening, and thank you for speaking, Mr. Black.
You need a resolution.
Oh, sorry.
Require a resolution to exclude the public.
Oh yeah, I'm just about to read that. Yeah, sorry, yeah. I was just about to read that. 13.1 is recommended under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 as extended by Section 100 of the Local Government Act 1972 that the public and accredited representatives of newspapers be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1, Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 by virtue of the paragraph specified against this item. Thank you very much for your compliance.
Don't we have to vote?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
all those in favour?
Yeah. Thank you.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah.